Good morning.
Okay. Good morning.
How are you?
I am doing lovely. So glad to be here.
So we have Paula today. Paula is a public adjuster,
Yeah.
and I am clueless. We were just talking about homeowners insurance policies, and you made a comment of like how because I'm in the world of real estate that I
Yes.
should that I know. I don't know. I honestly have never looked at my homeowners insurance policy. My husband handles all of it. Sadly, I am completely useless. So explain as if I were 10, what is a public adjuster and what do you do?
So a public adjuster is a person that you hire when you have a homeowner's claim. The insurance company sends out their adjuster, but that's their adjuster who represents their interests. So if you have a claim, you want your interests represented. And you don't know. Like when I had a claim when I was in my late 20s, my whole house had pipes freeze. And what do I know? Like I just bought this house. I'm 20 something. I don't. And so I actually did hire a public adjuster on some good advice. And people don't even know what a public adjuster is. I had no idea. The person represents your interests and helps you negotiate a fair claim with the insurance company. That they have their own guy, and he represents them. And we'll give you a claim. We'll look at the loss, but they're also not as educated as to all of the nuances with the house, and they're not there to maximize your claim.
So the homeowners insurance that I pay for my home, they're not looking out for me.
Not always, no. And they're also sending, they train their guys in a certain way, or they're using independent adjusters that are trained in a certain way, and they'll come out and they give you, they'll give you, yes, okay, your pipes froze. Well, all right, let's take out the ceiling, but then, you look at something, you look at their estimate, and they maybe took down the ceiling, but they didn't replace the insulation that got wet. They didn't sand the floor that got a little buckled from the water falling on it. So it happens all the time. So, really having your own person to represent you makes sure that you're covered for, all the pieces of the puzzle.
So are you, well, I guess let's back up and for how does homeowners insurance work as far as like they come out and then they give you an estimate, they cut you a check so that you can do the stuff.
Yep.
And then they get mad at you and they jack up your rates.
They can, and they don't always. People always think, "Oh, I'm going to file a loss. They're going to jack up my rates, or they're gonna non-renew me." And they don't always. It's a calculation on the insurance company side. Sometimes they do. Sometimes you have a couple losses and they keep you. Sometimes you have a couple losses and they cut you loose. But yeah, you pay all this money for insurance, thinking, okay, I'm going to get covered, and and people are always like, I've been paying my insurance for 10 years. And now I have this loss, and they're being mean to me. And I mean, they're not being mean. Everyone always thinks that they're being mean to me. They're doing, like, that person that's coming out, that adjuster. He's doing his job. He's doing his job. He's doing what the insurance company tells him to do, and giving you an estimate. And then you'll look and go, I can't fix it for that. We do like to be from the beginning. Like, so if someone has a loss, we like to be there from the beginning, because we see everything, and we write an estimate up here. So rather than start at their number when they first come out, we like to start at our number, and then have them come up versus pulling them up when they left and they gave you a check for $10,000, but maybe you have $50,000 worth of damage. I know.
I said specifically in the middle of a sentence, don't
Yes, don't do that. I'm not used to this.
tie that hand down there. So what is your process? What does a whole process look like? Because it sounds like, I mean, people don't want to deal with calling their insurance company in the first place, right? So then the thought of like bringing a third party into it sounds like it could be even more daunting.
The whole process is really stressful on a homeowner. And so one of the things I feel like we really do is we do take the stress off of the homeowner. And we actually started from the beginning. So if you called us, my plumber just left, my pipes were, leaking everywhere and he fixed it. And, now what do I do? We actually can file the claim. We can start it. If you already filed it, fine. But if you get to us before it's filed, we can file it for you. And then we start the conversation with the insurance company the whole time. And, you don't have to have any communication with them. We'll handle it right from the beginning. So we come out and we actually have equipment that does 3D pictures of all of your rooms, and it does measurements of the ceilings, the walls, the floors. So it does everything. We take that back. We put together a comprehensive estimate of what it's going to take to repair the loss, and then we present that to the insurance company. And then sometimes it takes a little while, and people immediate. I think we're in such a immediate gratification society, I think, with technology and all that. And actually it does take some time. It usually takes a week or so for the insurance company to do their estimate and get that back to us, so then we can present it to you. And a lot of times that's still missing stuff.
So they'll still send somebody out.
They'll still send someone out to look at the loss, and then that person puts their estimate together. And I was at one recently where we did, we got there first. We put together our estimate, presented it. They came out, they presented their estimate back, and it's still missing a lot. If your ceilings are down, they should be, we have to do detach and reset all your electrical stuff in the ceilings. And that was missing. And, there was part of a floor missing, continuous paint throughout a house. If you have your kitchen in your living room and it goes up to your stairs, and maybe the damage is in the kitchen. Well, that paint needs to be redone all the way throughout. And, so things like that are missing. People wouldn't know that because you might think, well, he painted that area that was damaged.
Right.
So that's good. But there's certain instances where that's not fair to you.
Right. Yeah. Especially if you're dealing with something that was painted 10 years ago. It's not going to
match.
No, it's not going to match.
Yeah.
Can you provide some examples of specific situations?
After a loss happens?
Yeah, or if you have one that maybe you came into it late, where you can say okay, this is what the insurance company was going to give them, and then
So I came into one after the insurance company had already been out there, and he presented an offer, 20-something thousand.
What happened?
It was a leak. So it was so the connection, which this happens so much, the connection behind your toilet. That is I feel like that's a very popular thing because we have so many losses that happens. The connection behind your toilet going into your wall, that fails, and then water just continuously gets, will fill up that bathroom, go through that floor, into the ceiling below, into the rooms below.
So on Sunday, I got a text from one of our office colleagues that there was a big leak right here in the office. It was when it was pouring that day, and it was coming down through the light over here. And they were like, oh, it must be because it's raining. Okay, there's an apartment upstairs. It's not because it's raining. Come on. And it's the bathroom. It's the bathroom right up above.
Yep.
I don't know if it was that connection. But probably,
but yeah.
Everybody go check. Go check.
Check behind your toilet.
Go check behind. And it's a small leak that happened. That's slowly over. You might not notice it.
Yeah, which actually we have to circle back when we talk. We'll talk maybe a little bit just about some things that you can look at to help yourself in the future. And slow leaks is a problem in some policies. But this particular loss, so it started. They already had an offer from the insurance companies, 20,000 or so. And there was stuff missing. There was a lot missing. There was, the insulate. I mentioned the insulation, the ceilings, that was missing. The sanding of floor that got buckled, the wall behind where that toilet leak was. No one looked. Behind that was the master bedroom. No one looked, and the floors were buckled under there. So then, you need to sand the floors in that bedroom, hallway, all the way down, because it was continuous floors. So that needed to be done. So it was a lot. So that loss went from 20-something to 90.
How do they determine the actual number? Would they have somebody come out, but do they have
There's a software that the insurance companies use, and we use it as well. And it's so hard for a homeowner to look at this report because it's every single little thing that has to be done to fix like that bathroom. So now you're detach, reset the toilet. You're taking up the floor. Then you're putting back down the floor. Then you're grouting it. You're nailing down the subfloor. Like, so there's all these layers of line items, and you could certainly very easy to miss something. And that's what happens. And you, as a homeowner, if you're doing it on your own and you're looking at it, you're not going to know every single little thing. You're going to say, oh, he replaced the floor. That's great. But he didn't do the subfloor. Or like I said, he gave me painting, over in the kitchen area. That's where the loss was. But he didn't paint throughout the house, and I'm not going to be able to match it.
Right.
And I think it's so hard, for someone to look at this report and know, what are you entitled to and what you're not entitled to. And that's where having a public adjuster sort of maximizes, we know what you're entitled to, and we work to get that.
So as far as what you're entitled to, how deep does your insurance coverage go? You have a leak. Does it cover just replacing the sheetrock? Does it go into replacing the insulation behind Ellie? How far?
Well, it has to bring you back to where you were, right? So the policy has to bring you back to, repair everything the way that it was. But there's certain things that then get added on top of that. Like if your loss is in your kitchen and your kitchen, is a little bit older and you don't have like the GFI outlets, or you don't have a dedicated line, from your appliances to the electrical box. There's certain things on Massachusetts codes that now you have to do because you're renovating that kitchen. Even though you have a loss, it's still considered, you still have to go and, depending on the size.
You have to bring it up to code.
You have to bring it up to code. Not all insurance companies or not all insurance policies have that in their policy. You actually have to have the coverage for code. And if you don't, anything that you do, you have the loss, anything that you do that's bringing things up to code, they don't have to pay you for that.
But you have to pay.
You have to do it.
The person to do it.
Right. So that's where, before we turn the cameras on, I was saying that there's things that you can do now that could help you in the future if you have a loss. And one is like knowing your insurance policy and knowing what's on there and what's not on there. I'll say the national, the big commercial ones that you see on TV, those are the ones you really want to look at, and you really want to be a little skeptical. Do I have code coverage? It's also called ordinance of law. So you can Google in your policy, do I have ordinance of law? Some of the bigger ones as well, the ones that have the funny animal on TV, they have something in their policy now that has a restriction on seepage over time. So if you have the insurance company in and you're like, oh, see that leak? Oh, maybe it's been going on for a week or so. So they have some language that limits 7 to 14 days. If they can say that leak's been happening for over 7 to 14 days, they're not going to cover it.
How can they even?
Well, so if it's not pouring through, like, it's not pouring through the wall, or it's not that, they can look at it and say, oh, yep, no, I think that's been happening over time. You're denied. We have one right now, I think that we're looking at that, it's denied. And, the person's like, but I saw it, I saw a puddle, like, and we're explaining it to the insurance company that way. And that insurance company in particular is like 7 to 14 days not covering it.
But how can they even determine that it's been happening for that long?
They can't. I mean,
they can't.
Right. And then the guy that comes out, right, their adjuster, he's not a plumber. He's not a plumbing expert. And that's where we would say, let's get the plumber out there. Let's have them write something up. Let's have them, take a look and give their opinion on how long that's been going on. But I wouldn't want a policy that has that in there.
Right.
Because it's subjective,
Yeah. You don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell if there's a leak that's been going on for like months that wasn't touched. But like if it just started 7 days, like,
and you just noticed the water stain.
Was it 5 days or was it 8 days? I don't know. Does it really look any different from one to the other?
And that's why it's even good, like if you have a loss, and maybe particularly like that, calling a public adjuster first, because we'll tell you. We'll be like, give us your policy. Let us look at your policy. Is that language in there? Yes, it is. And then let's really get down to, okay, when did you notice it? How did it happen? Like, that kind of thing. But
is that language, especially with like the ordinance of code? Is that what it is?
Or it's ordinance of law.
Ordinance
and we
of law.
call it code coverage, but if you look, it's not going to say I have code coverage. It's probably going to say ordinance of law. Yeah.
Is that something that is typically an option, or do they just kind of slip it in there?
It is. And it's in a lot. Like, I think a lot of insurance agents, do put that in there, and they know, like, especially, and that's actually probably reversing back onto the national ones that I'll advertise on TV, going directly to them. You really don't have like a representative or like, someone who's looking out for you.
So you need to really know how to.
You have to have an agent. You really should go to an insurance agent. And I feel like, the generations coming up, right? Like, I don't want to talk to someone. I just want to go online and do it.
Right.
I'm going to go right online. I'm going to get my policy. I'm not going to talk to anyone. Boom. And really, for your home insurance, having an agent is really key, because not only like that person can also look out for you, but you can, like, do I have this? Do I have that? Like, what am I covered for? Some policies, don't even allow for depreciation. Like, so, when you have a loss, they'll go, okay, all right, so the house is 10 years old, we're going to depreciate it X amount. You have a policy where you can go back for that depreciation after you do it. They take it from you before they might give you 10. If they say, okay, I'm going to give you $10,000, you really might get 8. They're going to hold back 2 in depreciation. And you do the work, show them you did the work, prove that you spent the money, and then they give you that $2,000. But that's an option in a policy. So you want to make sure, but most policies do have it. And but it's just, there's all these nuances that you see when people are going online, and what they're getting isn't always what they think they have. Like, you think you have insurance, and then you find out you're not covered for.
Right, because who's really reading the pages and pages of legalese and actually understanding it?
Yeah. I know.
And it's easy, even if you kind of can understand it, right? It's so easy to sit there and be like, do I really need that? What are the odds? Like, what is that really, like, in what scenario would that really come into play? So having somebody to be able to say, well, actually, the most common thing to happen is the connections behind your toilet start to leak, and it happens over time. So if you don't have XYZ, it's not going to cover this. Like, to actually have the real life, like, here are basic things that will happen. Because otherwise you're like,
yeah, what's the chances?
Yeah.
Like, and that kind of is like, insurance, like, what's the chances you have a loss? Yeah.
Or like, is it really that big of is it really that expensive to fix if my toilet starts leaking? Like, whatever. So if I have to like rip out a piece of sheetrock and replace it, you're not thinking about, well,
it might have got on the floor and
it got into the subfloor, it got into the insulation, and you didn't notice it for however many weeks, and now you have mold growing in your insulation, and you have to pull that entire wall apart, and you don't think about all of that stuff of what could happen. What are some other things that are common issues that pop up for people with claims, and how we can kind of get ahead of that to help? Don't move the table.
Don't touch that.
It's all ruined.
Yeah. One of the things, like, going back to, the things that you can do now to make sure that you're covered later. So one is, looking at your policy on the ordinance of law. You also want to look at your coverages. Are you covered enough? There's something very common that I see is that you have a coverage for your house, you have a coverage for your personal belongings, your couches, your pillows, and you have coverage for your loss of your additional living expenses. So what if your house it's completely gutted, you lost both your bathrooms, so now you have to go rent, go to a hotel or rent an Airbnb, or maybe you have to rent a whole house because you're going to be out for a year or 2, God forbid. But what I see is not enough coverage for that additional living, and particularly condos. If you own a condo and you live in a condo, please look at your policy, because I see so many where the coverage for additional living is $50,000 or $10,000. And down here, down on the South Shore or on the Cape, how far is $10,000 going to get you? If you're going to have to live out of that condo for a year or God forbid 2, that's not, what's that's going to get you a couple months.
Right.
And so that is, I think,
If you own that condo, you're still paying the mortgage on that condo.
right.
And you're paying rent somewhere else.
You're going to be couch surfing with people because you're not
Right.
going to have enough money.
How long can you cover essentially 2 mortgages on $10,000?
Right. So that's the one thing I would say is, especially condos, please look at your policy. But just in general, look at your policy to see what are you covered for ordinance of law? Do you have, the ability to go back for depreciation? And, are you covered enough? Like your personal belongings. If you have a condo, also look at that, because a lot of things drive off of the master policy deductible in a condo, because the condo association has the insurance for the building, and you have the insurance to cover the inside of your condo, but you only have to cover the master policy deductible in some cases. But some cases, there's some things that the master policy doesn't cover.
Like
and so say you have two condos, one's upstairs and one's downstairs. Say the upstairs condo leaves their sliders open by mistake and water pours in. Downstairs, master policy won't cover that damage. And so say it's $50,000, but you only had a policy for 10 because you were only covering the master policy deductible because you thought you were covered. And so there's going to be a few instances where you're not covered.
So especially if you have people living above you.
Yeah. And my sister-in-law just bought a condo on the Cape. She doesn't have anyone above her. But what I said to her is just make sure your coverage is enough. Like if you were to gut the inside of your condo, what would that look like? So how much would you need to redo the whole inside? And I would just make sure I have. I think she did like 50,000. It was kind of small.
So let's say like you have, like a townhouse where a lot of them are side by sides, right? And one that your neighbor has a kitchen fire, and it affects now your shared wall. Would that side, like your side, be covered?
Well,
obviously it's different.
Yeah, the whole thing would be covered under the master policy, and the unit policy would cover like whatever the master policy doesn't cover, like for your inside. But like I have one, not a fire, but it's a townhouse, and the water leak was just on one side. Still, the master policy is covering it, and her unit policy is just covering her deductible and her personal belongings and her additional living. And for hers, she does have enough for additional living. She only has to move out for a couple of weeks. But I think I did say, let's increase that later, just in case. What if that house burns down? What does that look like? How long are you going to have to get a rental, in South Boston? Or, that's going to be a lot of money. So there's a lot of things that you can preemptively look at. What's the chances you're going to have a loss? One in, I don't know, 1 in some odd thousand. But to know that you're covered, and people get so disappointed when I've been paying this insurance for all these years and, now it's not going to help me.
Right. Because if you had just pocketed that money for all those years, you probably would get more. You would end up with more than what they're going to give you.
Yeah. But I'd be more than happy to look at any policy. People show me all the time, like, oh, you look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this. Am I missing anything? And, so I can point out pretty quickly on some of the, the big things like, no, you don't have code coverage. You want that.
Now that's all like kind of indoor stuff, not like your own fault issues that happen, but like man-made problems, right? What about natural disaster stuff? Is there anything you have to really look out for? So we just had one, we had a tree come down. Thankfully it was like that close to hitting our pool, but it came down on the shed. It took out the whole shed and it took out half of the fence. And what we ended up, they were going to give us $10,000. And we're like, that's our deductible. Like, that's silly. I'm not going to put a claim in because I'm going to end up having to come out of pocket. They told us it was going to cost $10,000 to fix it.
Did the insurance company tell you that?
Yeah.
So you told them you told them you had a loss.
They sent sent somebody out and they're like, oh,
did you pull the claim?
No. Oh, we didn't. Yeah, we didn't go through with the claim because we're going to have to come out of pocket anyway.
Yeah, but you already filed. It's already a.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, if you already filed the claim, it's sort of like already like that. It's like people are like, oh, I'll pull the claim, but it's still
already there.
It's already there.
Yeah. But they came back and said because
your deductible.
Because it's wind damage.
So right. So yeah, and that's so funny.
So it affected the amount. Like they cut the amount in half.
Yep. That was
because wind damage.
Yeah, sorry. That was going to be my biggest thing when you said, weather events, especially on the South Shore. We do all have, a lot of us have wind deductibles, and they're high, or they're like a certain percentage of the claim. And that sort of goes back to what my thing would be, to talk to a public adjuster before your insurance company. Because we'll look at your thing and we'll go, oh, you have $10,000 deductible, and what's really your damage.
So you could have been like, they're not going to give you much more than your deductible, so it's not even.
So my first thing on that claim would have been to let me see your policy. All right, so all right, your wind deductible is $10,000. So do we think you have more than $10,000 worth of damage? So then I would say, okay, get an estimate for your fence, and get an estimate to take the shed down. Just get your debris removal for getting rid of it. Put the shed back up, and what does that look like? Is it $15,000 or is it $8,000? If it's 15, oh, maybe that is worth filing a claim and getting that $5,000. At least it's going to be a little bit on your way. The other problem with that type of claim, all outside of your house, right? So you have your shed, your pool, your fence. It's all under your other structures, and on your other structures, you don't have the ability to get back your depreciation. You don't get the depreciation back. So let's say the fence was 20 years old, the shed was 25 years old. If they depreciate those enough, what's that dollar amount look like? So now say maybe you started it at 15 or 20, but then they depreciated it, and now you're under your $10,000 deductible. So why bother?
Right.
So it's kind of like a math calculation along with, what are you entitled to and what are you not entitled to?
And even though we pulled the claim, that tick is still on, kind of.
It's dependent.
It's there.
Probably.
Because we do have one of the big
carriers.
Cute animal carriers.
Oh, yeah.
So.
The other way to look at that, right? So I say that to people, and then they're like, oh, well, if I go with an agent and it costs me more money, okay, then you're gambling. And that's okay to do, because you could say, okay, well, I'm going to keep the cute animal because it's here.
See, it's got a fun little accent.
It is. But then if my loss is here, then I have a loss. So it's like, okay, well, you saved money for how many years? And then if you don't get it in the loss, does one outweigh the other? Maybe if the small loss, the big loss. My other thing would be, okay, if you have one of the national carriers, make sure you have the coverages that we talked about, but also get a public adjuster, because they're harder to deal with, and they're not as fair. And the local ones are a little bit better. I like the local insurance company, and I love working with an agent.
How do you get paid? How does that work?
A public adjuster in Massachusetts gets 10% of the net amount that you get. So say the loss is $50,000, so your bill would be $5,000. Well, if that's how much cash you got, everything gets deducted. We don't get paid on the high number. We get paid on what you get paid. But we won't take on a loss that we don't know that we can do better than the insurance company is going to do. Okay. And we won't really take, if it's a small loss, we'll give you advice. We'll say, ask for this, ask for that. I'm always willing to talk to anyone, and give you some advice. But if it's a big loss, I'm going to say, you really should hire me. And I think what makes, so I work at Petrocelli Public Adjusters, and I think what makes us different is you have a team of people. So you don't just have one, person helping you through your loss. You have a team. You have someone in the office, someone in the fields, and we have policy experts, so we know what to look for. So I feel like we bring an added value, and we're not going to take on a loss we don't think we can get our money's worth for you.
Right.
Like I said, and just a few that I've worked on recently have gone, from 20 to 90,
oh, wow.
30 to 80, so, the 20 to 100 I've seen. Like it's really crazy, but the value, there's a value to it. And, it's also takes off a lot of stress,
So I wouldn't have to do anything. You just
Right.
handle it.
Right.
What's the general time frame of how long these, I'm sure it depends on the size of
It does.
the issue.
And it's so funny because you might have like, two houses side by side. And, maybe one's not using a public adjuster and this one's using a public adjuster, and one's with a national and one's with a local. So all those things are going to be different factors, because I have people all the time go, well, my neighbor just had one and he got a check within, 3 weeks. And okay, but did he get everything?
Right, because they're trying to
deserved?
get you
Right.
done as quickly as possible.
100%. They walk in, there's no public adjuster. Sometimes they're writing you a check right there and giving it to you. It might be $2,500, it
Yeah.
might be $5,000, but
It's a
here you
hush check.
Exactly. And so I tell people you do have to have patience. If you want to get everything you're entitled to, you have to have some patience. I think that, we try to get in quick. We do our thing. We get it to them. And sometimes it takes 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes a month to get their first estimate back. And sometimes that first estimate's not good enough. The one, recently, I think I went through 3 estimates with the adjuster before we got to.
So what do you
our
do
final.
in a situation where it's something that happened that's like, this needs to be fixed right away? I don't have a few weeks to kind of hold out on actually having somebody come in and do it.
Well, you can do the emergency work, right? Like, so you can fix stop the bathroom from leaking and fix it. What we can't do is cover up anything. So like, say you have to rip out a floor and you like, I want a floor down now. They need to see that. You don't want to jeopardize the insurance company ability to see the loss and see all the things that are wrong. So that is something that will, like, you got to step back, you got to breathe for a second, and you got to at least listen, to your public adjuster if we're saying, don't cover up anything yet. We need them to be able to see everything. And then once they see everything, you could start temporarily fixing things.
So if something happens that takes out your kitchen and you can't, like, you can't cook, like, it's
set up a microwave in the other room.
Just handle the emergency stuff that's not going to cause more issues, but don't have somebody come in and start fixing things. Don't start replacing things and then expect to be able to hand over a receipt.
Right, because and if you did that, they're going to want to know, are the cabinets like and kind to what you had? Because maybe you're going to buy nicer cabinets, and that's fine, you can do that. But we need to at least get the price of the cabinets that you had. And if you jeopardize their ability to see that, you're going to get Walmart pricing.
I don't think Walmart has
they
cabinets.
Probably don't cabinets, but you know what I'm saying. I'd say Home Depot, but Home Depot does have base, and then they have some nice cabinets.
IKEA?
So I didn't, maybe, yeah. But I say that with personal property all the time too. Like, so that would be the same thing, right? Like, so you had, this water and it damaged your couch, and you bought your couch at a high end place. Don't just throw it away. They need to see it. They need to see the brand name. Otherwise, you're going to get a Walmart couch.
And it's not just like snap some pictures of it and then throw it away. It's
saying they need to see it. And if it's, soaking wet or, they need to be able to see it. But I think at a minimum, pictures of the damage on it, which sometimes is hard to see. But you could put it in the garage. You could put it outside under a tarp if it has to get out of the house. But don't throw it away.
Do you recommend people taking pictures of their stuff now and kind of having it filed away of like, here's all my new brand name, undamaged, the way it was stuff stored in a folder on my computer. So if something were to happen, I can side by side look, this is what it was before it was damaged.
It's not a terrible idea to know all the things that you have. I mean, I think that we do a really good job coming in and documenting property, but let's say the house burnt down. And you can't go back in. We've had ones where the house burnt down, so you can't go back. We can't go in and document your personal property. Or we've also had one where the whole house had to be sealed because there was so much asbestos in the house. No one could walk in and see the property and make note of it. So in that case, those people made their list with pictures, like birthday parties, and like that reminded them. I feel like me, I would like close my eyes and walk into each room in my house and try to think of all the items that were in that room. But it certainly would not hurt to have pictures of everything, not required, but I think like some people have a hard time making a list kind of trying to visualize what was in the house.
Right. Yeah, and then kind of determining like what's relevant and what isn't.
Everything. If your house burnt down or, the house filled with soot and, everything down to the magazines and the pencils, because they all cost you money. And, some people are like, oh, I was going to throw that away, but you're entitled to it. So, and that's going to help you somewhere else in the claim. Like say you don't have code coverage, so you need to maximize your loss. And that's something that we help people do.
It's almost like you need to have inventory of all your belongings.
Yeah.
That might help us all kind of not spend so much too once you make inventory of it and realize like all the crap you have that you don't use.
Yeah. And what it's worth.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to kind of go through and like, here's all the stuff I have. Yeah. Someone's like, oh, approximately like how much, like what's the dollar value to everything in your living room?
Right. And
that'd be like way off.
Yeah. Well, we put an item by item list, so chair, couch, pillows,
It all adds up really fast.
Right.
What about all the DVDs I still have under my...
We put them on the list. Yeah.
How much are those?
Yeah. The VCR. Yeah. Well, they get depreciated a lot too.
Yeah.
And you won't, and that's kind of the funny thing too, like on personal property, a lot of people don't go back for the depreciation on the majority of their personal property. You do for the house, or I would for the house. I wouldn't leave. It's a big number, so you don't want to leave that on the table. But personal property, you never really see people go back for everything, but certainly the DVDs and the VCR tapes, they get on there and there's a value, but they'll take like 50-60% depreciation off those because you're not going to go get them.
I would think they would take even more.
That's kind of, like it's mean to do too much. Like I saw one, and actually this is in Massachusetts. My husband's cousin lives in Illinois, and some stuff was depreciated by like 90%. And I'm like, you need to go back and tell that insurance company that is like unfair and punitive. Like, why are they doing that to you?
What was...
I don't know. I don't know the reason, but I made her a list and I made her all her argument because I'm not licensed in Illinois. I looked up like real quick, how could I get licensed in Illinois?
Can I do that in 24 hours?
Well, it's not like a reciprocal. Like there's certain states around here that are reciprocal, and Illinois was not. So no, I would have to take a test. And I'm like, I don't know Illinois law, and it's $250 and $100 take the test. I go, I'll just do it from behind the scenes. So I went through her. I went through everything and wrote all kinds of notes. I'm like, go fight the insurance company. Here you go. You want me on the phone with you, I'm your sister.
Right.
I'm your lawyer sister. It's like, so they don't think, they don't be like, you're a public adjuster and you're not from Illinois. Go away.
Do the outside, do they cover, let's say you had like really expensive landscaping, like plants and trees, fruit trees and things like that. Do they, is anything like that taken into account to replace it?
I think the only time there's coverage or a decent amount of coverage maybe for plants and trees is when there's a fire.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why?
Like, so let's say that tree took out, if you're a tree that took out your shed and your pool area, if it damaged a bunch of really expensive trees or bushes or something, those would not be covered.
But you have to replace them.
Not part of your home.
What about all my vegetables?
Unless they're replacing in your sunroom. If they were in your sunroom,
replacing them all with store-bought things would be so much more expensive.
It would be. Well, I mean, I guess speaking of that, though, really quick, you talked about like if your kitchen was out. So let's say you have no access to your kitchen, and you're eating more of and your vegetables were taken out too. So now you don't have your vegetable garden. Your food expenses are higher during this period where you have no access to your kitchen. So one of the things that we'll do is have you give us all of your food receipts, put them into a spreadsheet. They do take like a consideration for what you would normally spend. So let's say during that month you spent, $2,000 on food. And normally you would have only spent $1,000 on food. So we'll put the spreadsheet together, send it in, and you should at least deserve 1,000. So you should be entitled to the difference that it's now costing you to eat because you don't have access to your kitchen.
Okay.
And so and now you might think, and say you're not using a public adjuster, you're like, all right, I'm just going to send you in all my receipts because you're going to cover my food, right? They'll pick apart things, and they know what to pick apart.
And you have to be able to show what you would have.
You don't otherwise. There really isn't because people are like, how do I show you what I normally spend? I'm like, just tell me. And
if it's a reasonable amount,
right? Like, okay. Like if you tell me you were only spending $100 a week and you had 2 kids, I'd be like, how can you do that?
Lucky charms,
right? How are you doing? How are you doing that exactly? So they may not really believe that. So they at least want it to be a fair calculation.
But if you're out of the house and you have to be put up in a hotel and now you're going out to eat all the time because you don't have a kitchen.
And they won't put you in a hotel for too long. If they know, if you're going to be out of the house, say it's going to be 6 months or 12 months before your kitchen's up and running. Well, there'd be a couple of different things. One, are your bedrooms and bathroom okay upstairs? You can live at home without your kitchen. Or maybe you can't. So if you can't live at home, they'll put you in a hotel for a week or 2, but then they'll probably want to start looking at some kind of long-term housing. They won't want to keep you in a hotel with the food bills and the hotel bills for too long.
Are there additional things, so people that have special circumstances, like if handicap, things like that, are there certain things in policies they want to make sure they're looking for or adding on if, let's say, they deem you can stay in your house, but but I don't know, can't go upstairs because I'm handicapped and I don't have access to.
Oh, I mean, they would definitely consider that. We would definitely present all right, so yeah, the upstairs might be okay, but this person can't get upstairs, so we have to get them out of the house and get them some housing. So they will take things into consideration.
So they're not
for sure. No, they're not. They're actually we work with these people. We meet the adjusters all the time. They have a job to do. We have a job to do. And the same with the people, I have good relationships with, the desk adjusters inside some of the companies, they have a job to do, we have a job to do. And they're very reasonable. If you're we need this for X, Y, and Z, as long as we can show why we need something and it's covered in the policy, they're, for the most part, they're pretty reasonable, except for a few of those big companies, cute animal included. Some of them they don't. They're just they don't have. Some of that is just nope. I'm a robot. You will not get X, Y, and Z. I can't do that.
Well, we just had one of those big companies tell us directly that the big companies intentionally jack up your rates with the hope that you will leave them.
Local companies do it too. I just had that to me.
But we couldn't figure out they were doing did try to do that test. We're well, it's not like we've been putting in claims. We haven't cost them anything. So why
do that? Well, this is what I think, and this could be pure speculation. I have had a local company, not one that I used with an agent. Bought my house last year on the Cape. My insurance was $6,000 the first year. All of a sudden, I get my new bill, $8,000. I had no claim. I've only been in this house for a year. Why did you raise me $2,000? My speculation is they didn't want to insure a house on the Cape. And maybe it's Plymouth is the same, right? Or very close. High wind deductible, high winds, do we have more storms maybe? So I think that they were nice to me to take my insurance on for the first year and said, we don't really want her, so we're going to hike it up $2,000. And if she's willing to pay $8,000, fine, we'll keep her. That's a gamble on our. As long as she doesn't have a claim, we'll take it. Right. So I went to an agent, gave him my stuff, and I actually saved money from where I was. So now my insurance is $4,000.
With the same went to a different company.
Yeah.
So they hours doubled. So when we went and looked what is going on, where are the number differences? We found that our rebuild cost, they changed our rebuild cost to like $800,000 or something. Like we wouldn't.
Oh, as well, they should though. After COVID.
Yeah, but like the rebuild cost is not going to be the same amount of money that you would like. It's not the market value. Your rebuild cost should be less than your market value, and our market value is not $800,000.
Yeah.
Like, don't tell me it's going to cost $800,000 to rebuild my house if I wouldn't even get that on the market.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely, I would say they definitely should be raising like rebuild costs, maybe not as high as they did to you. But, pre-COVID, what was it like? Maybe like $250 a square foot to build a house. What is it now? Is it probably $350?
At least.
More? Right, more. Because I sold my house during COVID, and we had these grandiose ideas of building, and we're watching when I saw the prices going up and up and up, I'm like, if I try to build a house now, I'm going to be divorced because I'm going to be like trying to be cheapy and,
with all the new codes and everything, it's probably,
right. So a
construction person can say whether or not I'm like way off, but I think it's more like 400.
Wow, that's crazy.
And if you want to go, good quality, higher end stuff, you're up over that.
Yeah. So I do think that, but I think that was also the same. They're probably trying to do the same thing to you that they did to me. And I actually didn't even do what you did, in being in the business. I probably should have.
We ended up, my husband did it. He like dug into it. He's a numbers guy though.
Yeah.
And then he now we stayed with them.
Because you got them to bring you.
We brought it down and actually it's less than what we paid last year somehow. But he probably removed a bunch of things that
might have and check on that. So you do want to check on what are you covered for and what are you not covered for.
Yeah.
And understanding the policy. I think that would be like the one takeaway is, get a public adjuster, or at least talk to a public adjuster, but at a minimum, know your policy and what you're covered for and what you're not, or have someone take a peek. And I'd always be willing to take a peek at anyone's policy.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have you back on and I will bring my policy with me.
So fun.
I've never looked at my policy. I have no idea what we're covered for and what we're not. Again, lazy as hell with that stuff. And I am like, I am a strong, independent woman and I don't need a man to do things and blah, 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 blah. When it comes to insurances of any kind, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Husband, help me. And I have no shame about it. I don't want to know. Not that I don't want to know. I don't want to use my brain power on it.
It's a lot.
It hurts my brain.
It's a 30-page document. Or some cases it's 30. Some cases it's more. Sometimes it's a little less. But it's a lot. And it's a lot to know and read and try to figure out.
It's just one of those things that it makes my brain shut down immediately the moment I start reading it. It's like suddenly I don't know how to read and comprehend things. I don't know. I just get incredibly overwhelmed immediately, which is yet another reason why I should have a public adjuster. Just go through it instead of my husband.
And I do say having an insurance agent, I think, is very key. Because not only will they make sure that you have, all the right coverages, but also in the rare event you have a loss too, they can, also be a little bit of an advocate to you. Or if the insurance company drops you, say you had a car hit your house and, so now you have a claim and the insurance company isn't really looking always at, was this your fault or was this not your fault? Maybe they say, okay, we don't want her. We're going to drop her. But you like that insurance company and maybe you want to stay with them. You could say to the agent, why did they do that? Why would they do that to me when this claim wasn't even my fault? I've seen this happen a couple of times where the agent will go and advocate and they'll keep them, especially if the claim wasn't your fault. If the claim was your fault, then not a lot to advocate for there.
But even that though is this is why
we have insurance.
Yeah, this is why we have insurance. I've been paying for how many years, and now I finally utilize it, and you're gonna drop me?
Yeah.
What the heck?
It's an actuarial game. I think it all comes down to the probability of you having another loss once you had a loss. Maybe they think that's higher. Also, but I also feel people don't have that many losses, right? So if you had a loss, what is the probability that you're going to have another one? I feel like they should drop someone else who hasn't had a loss and keep you, because what's the chance that you have another loss? But that's just me. not
or
the
maybe they're like,
actuarial
now you
person.
know the process, so
Yeah.
you're more likely to just be like,
Yeah.
whatever, it wasn't that painful the first time, we'll just do that again.
Yeah.
Like that first time is the hardest. And then once you rip the Band-Aid, you're going to claim all the time.
That could be true.
Maybe. I don't know. Is there anything, what's the number one thing, I guess, that people tend to be blind to or be shocked by if they do have an issue that could have been resolved prior if they just took care of it in advance?
The ordinance of law, for sure. Or do you mean something that causes a loss, or something that?
Whatever.
Well, I would say
yes.
I would say the one thing that shocks, I've had people shocked the most, is when they don't have the ordinance of law coverage. And we did have one claim where the person did not have ordinance of law coverage, and there was so much code, because it was an older house. Maybe it had knob and tube wiring. I don't really remember. It was a long time ago. But what they ended up doing is they ended up having to knock their house down. And it wasn't a loss that required the house to be knocked down. But because it was so expensive to fix all the code, it was cheaper, and they weren't going to be covered for that. It was less expensive for them to knock the house down and get a modular house.
Wow.
I know. And that was really disappointing. I felt so bad for them. And there wasn't, I mean, we maximized the heck out of the loss as much as we could, but we can't, when you come up against that, there's no going back because you didn't have it.
And the ratio of claims in older homes versus newer homes where everything might be up to code and the ordinance of law might not be relevant in that case because you're already up to code.
Right.
I would imagine that percentage of older homes where that would come into play is much, much, much higher.
Right.
So you're dealing with, who knows? You get grandfathered in to stuff. And you don't, like, even when you renovate things on your own as a homeowner, you don't always have to bring it up to today's code.
I guess if you take out a permit, you do. Because when you're
Right.
taking a permit out, the town's going to tell you what you have to bring up to code and what you don't. And that's another thing too. Even if you have code coverage, you have to prove to the insurance company that the town was going to make you bring it up to code. And that's another whole battle that we help with, where, we really have to coach the plumbers and the electricians on, what they're going to have to document in order to get that covered, and what we're going to have to prove from the town.
Because the insurance company is going to look at
see that.
replacing it as is.
Well, they're gonna even reach out to the town and say, "Were you really going to make them do that?" And if the town goes, "No,"
No, we don't care.
then the answer is no. So there's so many, nuances with claims that it's hard. I think big claims. I think everyone should hire a public adjuster.
Well, yeah,
for a
just
big
so you don't
claim.
have to do it yourself. I feel like you'd be all day. It'd be a full-time job.
Yes.
What do you think the percentage is of people who even really know that a public adjuster is an option?
Now that I introduce myself all the time, very, very small. No one knows what a public adjuster is and that we even exist. It's crazy.
Why?
I don't know. I don't, because I think that we really serve a purpose. I mean, I guess it's also kind of sad that a public adjuster is needed, because you should be able to, you pay all this money to insurance.
Right.
You should be able to get it. But I guess you can also, on the insurance side, it's they're running a business, and they, you want them to stay in business, right? We all
But
want
your
insurance,
best interests aren't their priority.
Exactly. Their best interest, and them staying afloat is their priority.
And maybe that's the disconnect, because
Yeah.
stupidly, I would assume that my insurance company that I pay wants to look out for me.
Right.
And the way they advertise and market themselves is that they are taking care of their customers, and that their goal is to take care of their customer.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not.
Yeah. Like that creepy one, that creepy commercial. The real taking care of one. No. They're not there. They're not in your bathroom with you and watching you do everything.
Are you talking about Mayhem?
No. I actually don't even know. The one with Flo. I don't know.
Oh, the one with Flo.
One with Flo. Yeah. It's funny because like that.
No, I guess Mayhem is more.
I love that one.
That's brilliant marketing. I have to say.
I love that guy.
He's hilarious.
I mean, they all have great. They're all their marketers are good. But it's just, I think, just the number one thing: have an agent, because you want to make sure that you're covered for.
So it's almost like you should be looking at the public adjuster as this is the person that
is going to represent me. They're
looking out for me.
Looking out for
your best interest. And the insurance
interest.
company is just a necessity. I need to have insurance.
Yep. But and they need to stay in business. Get it? But but you want to maximize your claim, and to maximize your claim, hire a public adjuster. Even builders, and I love working with builders. But if a builder puts together an estimate and sends it, they pick them apart. They pick them apart because the builders aren't licensed public adjusters, and they know it on that side. So it's treated differently.
How so?
It's just they pick it apart. They're like, oh, this isn't covered. That's not covered. You're adding this, or you're doing this. So
that's not saying certain things aren't necessary, or
right. So it doesn't, some people will say, well, I gave them my builder's estimate. That's they'll pick that apart. So and we write in the same software they write in. So we put it in their way of writing and all the bullet points, where a builder's yeah, this is going to be $50,000, and it's not line by line by line by line. So we can actually do better.
And even just, I would imagine it's not easy to get a builder to give you that, right?
Right now.
And they have a job to do, and it's not necessarily to be as crazy nitpicky as
right.
An insurance claim needs you to be. They're going to be ugh.
And a lot of builders, not the ones that we know or that we would recommend, but a lot of builders will come in, oh, you have an insurance claim, get the money first and then come talk to me.
Right.
A lot. And I'm kind of surprised, because one of the things I say to people is after we come in, we put our stuff together, we get it to them. While we're waiting for the insurance company to get their estimate back, get a builder in, have them give you a quote so you know what it's going to cost to do the work. And some I had him in. He won't give me a number until he sees the insurance company number. But then it's all right, well, why? Is he thinking, oh, it's going to be big and I'll just make my number there? Or does he just not interested? I don't know the answer, but it happens a lot.
It probably goes both ways. They're thinking I don't want to underquote it.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to put my it's work for a builder to put an estimate together, right? I don't want to put my time and effort into putting this estimate together if this person isn't actually intending on using me and they're just trying to get a number.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. And they're so busy right now. Builders are real. I think
it might just be a matter of it becomes more of is this for real or not? Or are you just you just need an estimate? Yeah. And it's not about actually getting the work done for real.
Right.
You want.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I just know that I hear that's very common, that they'll have the builder in and the builder will be let me know when you have the money. I have no interest for you, I guess.
Right.
I don't know.
Because it's not something you're going to do right now.
Right.
Or you're going to get the money and you're going to go ask your buddy to do it cheaper. So, sure. Yeah. I mean, it takes some hours. It's a lot of work. So I get that. I get not wanting to do the work for something that you don't know, is this a real job that's coming my way?
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
But yeah. Interesting.
I don't know the answer. I just know you should hire a public adjuster and have an agent. I'll leave with that.
What is something that, I don't want to get you off on a tangent because we are running a little low on time. We got about 5 minutes. What would you change in the insurance world, the homeowners insurance world, and how it currently operates now?
I think in a perfect world, insurance policies would be easier for people. It should be so black and white that you would be able to pick it up and go, oh, yes, I do have this. Oh, yes, I am covered for that. I am it's so behind the scenes and these, you have all these endorsements and one might take some money away from you, or you might need this one endorsement and it's not in there and you don't know Like, so that's the one thing that I wish for people, like that it was easy and that everyone, could very easily know, yes, I am covered for that. And this little tiny language in there about the 7-day seepage, that you would know that that's in there and that that's a problem, but people don't. And it'd be nice if everyone knew what a public adjuster was too. That's what I would really want.
Well, hopefully after this, a few more people know.
A few more people.
All my millions of followers.
All right.
How can people get in touch with you?
So I am on all social media. I'm on LinkedIn, Paula Lyons-Barry. Petrocelli Public Adjusters is where I work. And you could email me, call me. Paula@petrocelliadjusters.com is my email.
Does Petrocelli have social pages. Media as well that we can tag? Or?
We don't. We have a Facebook page, but certainly could tag our Facebook page, my LinkedIn. I like to post things on LinkedIn to kind of educate people on a lot of the things that we spoke about. Could call me, and I'd love to look at your policies.
Okay, you should start.
I'll start with you. Yeah, we'll come back again. You could bring your policy. I could bring a couple examples.
Yeah.
I like to play show and tell.
You could do like a whole social media thing about that.
Yeah.
Weekly show and tell.
That'll be fun.
About 7-day seepage.
Yeah, I know.
That just sounds awful.
I know. It's so mean. It's so mean. Because you think you have this coverage, and then you're like, you're going to say that this happened over 7 days. And
then it's just a he said, she said thing.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with anything factual anymore. It's just.
Yeah. And I think like in our case, like, we can help advocate. And in some cases we can get it overturned because we can, kind of demonstrate and prove that it wasn't. And some cases they're just going to dig their heels in and say no. And what can you do? Like there's not a lot of avenues. One is hiring a public adjuster. And then, you could go like there's the division, the division of insurance. They don't really do too much, but you can complain to them and try to get somewhere. You can't really sue an insurance company. In the policy, you're supposed to go to appraisal or reference. So say you're in this big claim and you're battling the insurance company and you can't get anywhere and you didn't even know a public adjuster existed. In your policy, you can file for reference in Massachusetts. But would be so hard for a homeowner to even figure out how to do that because you have to hire someone to represent you. They hire someone to represent them. Then those two people hire an umpire. So now you got these three people. Then you have to build a case. So you would need a public adjuster.
Yeah, and then the cost associated with that.
And in this case, like if you want to overturn something that's been denied, that's probably not even something that you could go to reference. You'd probably just have to go to a lawyer and find a good lawyer that specializes in insurance, which we have some really good referrals of guys that we work with that when needed, when needed and you come up against something that just can't move, that's also something that we bring in.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great having you on.
It was fun.
I'll make sure to tag all your socials.
Thank you.
And now I feel educated.
That's awesome.
No, I will definitely, like I said, I'm not proud of it. It is definitely something that I have been very ignorant of. When you started in our networking group, I didn't know what the heck you did.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know what kind of questions to ask today. I was like, I don't know. What did she do? I don't know. I don't know. But as a real estate agent, I should know. And now I can speak to that to my clients of like, hey, if anything were to happen, this is the person that you need to call.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And have a great rest of your day.